Hey guys, welcome back to English Uncovered with Peter. I'm so glad you're here today because I know exactly what you're going through. You sit down to learn English, maybe you read a list of words or repeat them after a teacher or an app, and in that moment, you feel great. You've got dozens of new words flowing into your brain, but then the next day, they're gone, completely wiped away. You struggle to recall even the most basic ones, and that can feel so frustrating, almost like you're running in circles without making progress. And let me tell you this, I get it. I've been there. I've learned 3 foreign languages myself, and I know how exhausting it is to put in hours of effort only to feel like nothing is sticking. You start to wonder if maybe you're just not good at languages, if maybe there's something wrong with you. But trust me, it's not you. It's the method. The way most people try to learn vocabulary is broken, and that's why it feels so hard. That's why today I want to share something different with you. I'm going to give you a set of proven methods that actually work. Strategies that will help you not only memorize words, but truly use them. And once you start applying these methods, you'll notice something amazing. You'll be able to learn hundreds, even thousands of words in a much shorter time than you ever thought possible. So if you've ever felt stuck, if you've ever been frustrated by how quickly words slip away, don't go anywhere. Stick with me until the end of this episode, because one of the last tips I'll share with you might completely change the way you learn vocabulary forever. Method 1. Learn all word forms. Now, let's dive into the very first method, and it's one of my favorites because it's so simple yet so powerful. When you learn a new word in English, don't just stop at memorizing that one single meaning. Make sure you learn all of its forms. Why? Because in English, many words can function as both a noun and a verb, or sometimes even as an adjective. And when you recognize that, you're not just learning one word, you're learning 2, 3, or even more at once. It's like getting extra vocabulary for free. Let me give you a very simple example. The word milk. You probably already know milk as a noun. It's a drink, it comes from a cow, you pour it into your coffee or onto your cereal. But to milk is also a verb, and it means the action of taking milk from a cow. Suddenly, that one simple word has doubled its usefulness in your vocabulary. You didn't just learn milk, you learned milk and to milk. And this doesn't just happen with food, it happens everywhere. Think about the word love. As a noun, love is this powerful feeling we all know. But as a verb, to love means the action of expressing that feeling. Another one, kiss. As a noun, a kiss is the physical gesture. As a verb, to kiss is the action of doing it. The same goes for work. Work can be the place you go to every day or the things you produce there. But to work is the action you do there. Even dry works this way. Dry as an adjective describes something without water, but to dry means to remove the water from something, like drying your hands or drying the dishes. See how quickly your vocabulary multiplies? You thought you only learned one word, but in reality, you've gained at least 2. That's why when you're studying, don't stop at the first meaning you see in the dictionary. Ask yourself, can this word also be a verb? Is it used as a noun? Does it work as an adjective? By training yourself to always look for different forms, you're going to double or triple your vocabulary instantly, without memorizing long, boring lists.
Method 2. Words ending in T-I-O-N. All right, let's move on to the second method. And this one is like finding a secret shortcut in the English language. It has to do with words that end in tion. You've seen them everywhere: ambition, motivation, profession, convention. And here's the cool thing. These words exist in so many other languages around the world, especially across Europe and South America, and they often look and sound almost exactly the same. That means if your native language is Spanish, French, Italian, German, Portuguese, or even Russian, you already know hundreds of English words without realizing it. Let's test this out. The word ambition. In Spanish, it's ambición. In German, it's ambición. In Italian, it's ambizione. Pretty close, right? How about motivation? Same story. Motivación in Spanish, motivación in German, motivazione in Italian. You don't have to start from scratch with these words. All you need to do is adjust the pronunciation a little to sound more natural in English, and boom, you've just unlocked dozens of new words instantly. This pattern works for so many examples: profession, convention, motivation, nation, organization, education, situation, dissertation, portion, intonation, sanction. Once you start noticing this pattern, it becomes addictive. You realize you already have a massive English vocabulary hidden inside your own language. You just need to recognize it. And here's my tip for you. Make a personal list of TION words. Open up a notebook or a note on your phone, and every time you come across one, write it down, then write its equivalent in your own language. You'll be amazed at how many of them you already understand. And this exercise isn't just about memorizing new words. It's about building confidence. When you look at that list, you'll think, wow, I already know so much more English than I thought. That confidence is going to push you forward and make learning easier. So imagine this. You sit down one evening and write out 20 TION words. By the next morning, you don't just have 20 new words in English, you have 20 words that feel natural, that connect with your own language, and that you can actually use right away. And once you can use them, they're yours forever. Method 3. The Google Images trick. Now, let's talk about one of my absolute favorite techniques. It's fun, it's visual, and it makes words stick in your brain like glue. I call it the Google Images trick. Here's how it works. Whenever you learn a new word, don't just look it up in a dictionary and read the definition. Instead, type it into Google and switch to the Images tab. Suddenly, you're not just staring at boring text, you're seeing that word come to life in colorful, vivid pictures. And those pictures can create associations in your mind that are so strong you'll never forget the word again. Let me give you some examples. Take the word spear. A spear is a weapon, right? But the first time I searched for it, one of the images that came up was Britney Spears. Now, I don't know about you, but I grew up listening to Britney Spears. She was everywhere in the 2000s. And ever since that moment, whenever I think of the word spear, I can't help but picture Britney Spears holding a weapon. It sounds silly, but it works. That association has made the word unforgettable for me. Here's another one. Beetle. Of course, a beetle is a little insect, a small bug. But when you Google it, what shows up? The Volkswagen Beetle, the car. And that instantly triggered a memory for me. I used to play a computer game as a kid where you had to drive away from the police in Chicago, and one of the cars you could drive was the Volkswagen Beetle. So now, when I hear beetle, I don't just think about an insect. I think about cars, video games, childhood. Suddenly, that word has layers of meaning, and I'll never forget it.
And here's one more. Gosling. A gosling is a baby goose. But if you search it, what pops up immediately? Ryan Gosling, the actor. Now, every time I hear Gosling, I smile and think, oh, Ryan Gosling, the baby goose. It's ridiculous, but it's also brilliant because it locks the word into my memory. This is the power of visual associations. When you combine a word with an image, especially one that connects to your own life, your culture, or your memories, that word becomes more than just letters on a page. It becomes a story, and stories are what our brains remember best. So the next time you learn a new word, don't stop with a dictionary. Google it, explore the images, laugh at the connections your brain makes, and trust me, you'll never forget it. Method 4, multiple meanings. Now, the next method builds on that idea of expanding words into something bigger. This is about understanding that in English, almost every word you learn has more than one meaning, and those meanings can sometimes be completely different from each other. If you only learn the first meaning that pops up in your textbook, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. Because every new word you add to your vocabulary could actually be 3 or 4 words in disguise. Let's start with the word fire. As a noun, you already know it. It's the flames, the thing that burns wood or lights up the night. But as a verb, to fire means something completely different. It means to let someone go from their job. Your boss might fire you if you don't perform well. And that's already 2 separate ideas from one word. Then think about it again. If you say to fire a gun, that's yet another meaning. So with one short word, fire, you've collected at least 3 or 4 powerful uses. Another great example is the word date. This one is amazing because it has so many sides. As a verb, to date means to go out with someone you like romantically. I'm dating her, or we went on a date last night. As a noun, a date can mean that romantic meeting itself. But it can also mean the day on a calendar. What's today's date? And if you walk into a market, date can also be a fruit, like a dried sweet fruit similar to a fig. Suddenly, one simple word explodes into 4 or 5 different meanings, each with its own context. Imagine how much more fluent and flexible you sound when you know all of them. And then there's the word miss. As a verb, to miss means to long for someone. I miss you means you want to see that person again. But to miss also means to fail to catch something, like I missed the bus. And as a title, Miss is a formal way to address a young woman like Ms. Johnson. Same spelling, same pronunciation, but 3 totally different ideas. If you only learn one of them, you're losing so much potential vocabulary. So here's my encouragement to you. Whenever you come across a new word, don't stop after the first definition. Take 2 minutes and ask yourself, what else does this word mean? How else is it used? Look it up, write it down, practice each meaning in a sentence. Because every new word is not just one, it's often 3 or 4. And that means your vocabulary can grow 4 times faster without you even realizing it.
Method 5. Words that are the same across languages. Now, let's move on to something that feels almost like magic when you notice it. One of the easiest ways to grow your vocabulary quickly is to recognize that many words in English are almost exactly the same as in your own language. Sometimes all you have to do is adjust the pronunciation a little, and suddenly you realize you already know hundreds of English words without even studying them. Think about words like aquarium. In English, it's aquarium. In Russian, it's aquarium. In German, aquarium. In Italian, acquario. See the pattern? It's practically the same everywhere. Another example, avocado. Whether you're in Spain, France, or Brazil, chances are people are going to understand you when you say avocado. The word has traveled across cultures almost unchanged. And it doesn't stop there. Cocktail. Say it in French,
German or English, and people will nod. They know exactly what you mean. Caramel, again, almost identical. There are literally hundreds of these words. Some people call them international words because they're shared across so many languages. And here's the great news, you don't have to spend hours memorizing them from scratch. You already know them, you just need to polish how you pronounce them in English. So when you're learning English, pay attention to this category. Start collecting them. You'll be surprised how many times you'll come across a word and think, wait a minute, that's basically the same in my language. That's a huge confidence boost. Instead of feeling like you're facing an impossible mountain of new vocabulary, you suddenly realize you already have a head start. You already have a backpack full of words that work in English, just waiting for you to take them out and use them. The trick is simple. Don't dismiss these words as too easy. Use them, pronounce them the English way, and add them to your active vocabulary. Imagine you're in a conversation and someone mentions caramel. You don't hesitate because you know that word. That moment of confidence makes you feel more fluent, and the more you feel fluent, the more your brain relaxes, making it easier to learn new words. So never underestimate the power of these international words. They're shortcuts that make English learning much easier than it first appears. Method 6. The 100 core words, your safety net. Now, let's shift gears a little. We've talked about fancy vocabulary, about tricks and shortcuts, but there's something even more important you need to build if you want to feel safe and confident in English. I call it your safety net. And this safety net is made up of the 100 most common words in the English language. Why do I call it a safety net? Because these words are everywhere. They are the foundation of English. In fact, studies have shown that if you know the 100 most common words, you already understand about 50% of all written English. Isn't that incredible? Just 100 words, and suddenly you can make sense of half the text you see in books, on websites, or in messages. Think about words like I, me, you, her, they, government, people, time, day, work. These words are not flashy. They're not advanced, but they are the glue that hold the language together. Without them, you can't form sentences. With them, you can express yourself in thousands of ways.
Now, some of you may have already seen my video where I break down those 100 words. And if you haven't, I strongly recommend you go watch it after this podcast. It's one of the most useful tools you can have as a language learner. Because when you mastered these 100 words, you stop worrying about whether you'll understand the basics. You create this feeling of security, this confidence that no matter what happens in a conversation, you have a set of reliable words to fall back on. Let me give you an example. Imagine you don't know the word restaurant. That could feel like a big problem. But if you know the word eat, and you know how to say, I want to eat, suddenly you can explain yourself. People will still understand you. That's the power of these core words. They give you the ability to communicate even when your vocabulary isn't perfect. So here's my advice. Don't just focus on the big, complicated words. Spend some time mastering these 100 core words. Write them out. Practice them in sentences. Repeat them until they become automatic. Because once they're automatic, you'll feel like you always have a safety net. And that's going to make learning everything else so much easier. Method 7. Expressions and idioms. Now, let's move on to another powerful way of boosting your vocabulary, learning expressions and idioms. You see, a single word can take on a completely new life when it appears inside a phrase. And this is where English gets really exciting, because idioms are colorful, emotional, and they make your speech sound instantly more natural. Take the word nuts, for example. On its own, it's just a snack, right? A peanut, a walnut, something you eat. But in an idiom, if someone says, "He's nuts," it suddenly means he's crazy. Completely different meaning, but much more expressive. Another one, I feel blue. Of course, blue is just a color, but in this idiom, it means I feel sad. And how about this one? I'm all ears. Does it mean that you've magically turned into two giant ears? Of course not. It means you're listening carefully with your full attention. Idioms like these are everywhere in English, and the best way to learn them is to practice them immediately in your own sentences. You could even send me a message saying, "Peter, I was all ears in this podcast," and I'd know exactly what you meant. That's how fast idioms can make you sound more native. The beauty of idioms is that they not only expand your vocabulary, but also give you a window into the culture of English speakers. They often come from history, stories, or humor, and that's why they stick in people's minds. So instead of trying to memorize one word at a time, you're actually learning whole chunks of language. And chunks are easier to remember, easier to use, and much more fun. Imagine you're in a conversation, and instead of saying, "I'm very attentive," you simply say, "I'm all ears." Instantly, you sound more fluent, more natural, and people feel like you really know the language. Method 8. False friends. Now, let's shift gears to something a little trickier, but just as important. False friends. These are words that look or sound very similar to words in your own language, but they don't actually mean the same thing. And let me tell you, these little traps can be embarrassing if you're not careful. For example, in German, the word eventuell means perhaps or maybe. But in English, the word eventually means something completely different. It means at some point in the future. Imagine a German learner saying, "Eventually I'll come to the party," when they actually meant, "Maybe I'll come to the party." That's a big difference, right? Another common one is the word actual. In Spanish, actual means real or current. But in English, actual means genuine, true, or exact. So if you say, "my actual friend," people might be confused, because in English it sounds like you're trying to say, "my real friend, not a fake one," when in Spanish you might simply mean, "my current friend."
False friends are everywhere, and if you don't double-check them, they can sneak into your speech and create misunderstandings. But here's the good news. Once you learn to spot them, they actually help you remember vocabulary even better. The key is to always confirm the meaning of a word you think you recognize. Don't just assume it's the same in English as in your language. Open a dictionary, check an example sentence, and make sure you're using it correctly. That little habit will save you from a lot of awkward situations and will make your English much sharper. So when it comes to idioms and false friends, here's my advice. Embrace idioms as your secret weapon to sound natural and fluent, but be careful with false friends. Double-check them, write them down, and maybe even keep a little false friend journal where you note the tricky ones. Over time, you'll start to see patterns, and your brain will learn to pause and think before misusing them. Every idiom you learn gives your English color and style, and every false friend you conquer makes your English safer and more precise. Together, these two methods will push your vocabulary to a whole new level.
All right, before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap of everything we covered today. We started with Method 1, learning all the word forms so that a single word like milk or work instantly doubles or triples your vocabulary. Then Method 2, using those powerful TION words, ambition, motivation, convention, that exist across so many languages and give you hundreds of easy wins. Method 3 was the Google Images trick, where you let your brain connect words to funny, cultural, or visual associations, making them unforgettable. After that, Method 4, discovering multiple meanings, because every new word isn't just one, it's often 4 or 5. Then we moved on to Method 5, spotting words that are the same across languages, like aquarium or cocktail. Method 6 was about the 100 core words, your safety net, the foundation of all English texts. Then, in Method 7, we explored idioms and expressions, those colorful phrases that make you sound fluent and natural. And finally, Method 8, avoiding false friends, those tricky words that look familiar but can lead you into embarrassing mistakes if you're not careful. So, what does all of this mean for you? It means that learning vocabulary doesn't have to be slow, painful, or frustrating. With the right strategies, it can be faster, fun, and long-lasting. Each of these methods opens a new door, and the more of them you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become. Now, here's my challenge for you. Don't just listen to these ideas, put them into practice. Try at least one of these methods today. It could be writing down a list of TION words. It could be testing the Google Images trick, or even practicing an idiom in your next conversation. And I'd love to hear from you. Tell me which method you're going to use first. You can leave a comment or share your answer with me, and I'll be all ears. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode and want more tips to make your English learning journey easier, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned here on English Uncovered with Peter. We've got so much more coming your way. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and remember, you're capable of much more than you think. Take care, and I'll see you in the next episode.